So in this video, I want to take a look at the quote by Walter Russell, and it goes like this. Your body is merely a machine made to express the thoughts that flow through you and nothing more. It is but an instrument for you to express your imagings, just as a piano is an instrument for a musician to express his imagings. Just as the piano is not the musician, so likewise your body is not you. I first read that quote about 12 years ago and stuck with me. I thought about it. He's got a similar quote when I read his book, The Secret of Light. I don't have it in front of me, forgive me, but it goes something like, when a body dies, it never truly died because the spirit lives on. And I wish he would have used the word soul instead of spirit, but because I believe that in that quote, because the person is made up of three parts: their body, their flesh, and their soul, which is the eternal them. And then the spirit of a person is different, because the spirit a person can have a spirit of strength, of joy, fear, and so on. But anyway, that's just me being nitpicky. But his quote about when the flesh dies, it's not correct to say that it dies. Dying suggested that it was once alive. His point with both these quotes actually is that it's the soul in a person that is alive, and the body is just an instrument. Like here, he's referring to the piano. So I think if Walter Russell was alive today, I love his quote there. I love his analogy with the piano and versus the musician. I think if he's alive today, he might use a computer, like say maybe like an external hard drive or something, versus a computer monitor. So if you use the monitor, you can access the hard drive, and you can see photos, videos, or whatever. And if something happens and the monitor dies, you can take the hard drive and hook it up to a different monitor. I know you need a computing device, but you see where I'm going with this. And so it's not the monitor that has the files, it's the hard drive. And so same idea. It's a neat idea, and it really got me thinking about how energy cannot be created or destroyed. And what is our consciousness? It flows in energy in the form of electricity. And all the energy in the universe, how I define universe is a little different than most people, but all the energy in the quote unquote universe has always been here. You can't take away from it. You can't add to it. Energy is just always changing, but it's always here. And so, this idea is that, we're alive here in the flesh now, but when we die, our energy, it just changes form, but it doesn't actually go away. So now we're getting into a person's soul. And one question that I always toy with is, when were we created? And it's hard to say, because people confuse eternity with forever. It's easy to do. Eternity is all points in time at once, in a manner of speaking. Forever suggests that there was a beginning point but no end. And so eternity and forever are different. So if we were created in eternity, then have we always existed? But if we've always existed, then we should be more mature than what we are. So I wonder if we were one with God and then separated and are trying to find our way back. But then once everybody does find their way back, does the separation ever happen again? And now I'm going to get into my Christian beliefs. And so this separation is a separation from God. And, how did God create us? I think, he created us in his image, but what does that mean? To me, I'm going to use my own analogy. It's like if God is an ocean, the ocean, if God is the ocean, and he takes a drop of water out of the ocean and creates that drop of water to be its own separate life, its own separate personality. I think one needs to be careful with this because we are not God. We are created in his image and probably created from a broken off piece of God. But I can assure you, we ourselves are not God, capital G, because of sin. Sin separates us from God. And the more we sin, the more separated from God we become. And that's where Christ fills in the gap. Christ is different than us because Christ is God in the flesh, the soul of God, the Spirit of God, all the above in the flesh. And we are not. We are just a broken off piece with our own personality, our own weaknesses. And so that brings me to the idea of hell and punishment. And I'm even going to get into reincarnation. So there's a law of balance and there's a law of punishment. And so if we sin, that requires a punishment. And Christ took on that punishment for us. And if you don't accept Christ, I know that's the next thing. What happens to people who don't accept Christ? Well, there is a punishment that they will have to bear. Me personally, I don't believe it's an eternity in hell. I think the term fire and brimstone is used as in an analogy to shape, let's just say, a blob of metal. A blob of metal is useless unless you take it through fire and brimstone. Then you can shape it into a tool to be used, and it can serve a purpose for the master. And so that's what I think hell is, but please read the Bible for yourself and make your own decisions on that. So with reincarnation, I think that one life is too short. I've always thought, even when I was a kid, that just one life. You say, well, what? Especially if that life was cut short, and it's like, well, what you did, and say somebody dies at the age of 18 or something. Well, what you did in those 18 years, you're judged on, and yes, I do believe that. But if this person who died at 18 is royally screwed up, then their punishment is going to last for all of eternity. I have a hard time believing that. One life is too short for such a everlasting judgment. God is always the God of second chances. But again, read the Bible and decide for yourself. Those are just my thoughts. And I know I've had talks with Christians before about reincarnations, and they usually end up getting very upset with me. And one of the things that I've noticed that they always bring up is when Christ and his disciples were walking and they saw a blind man, and the disciples asked Christ, who sinned that this man should be born blind? Was it the man or was it his parents? Suggesting that the man did something before his birth to cause him to be blind. And Christ answers, neither the man nor his parents sinned that he should be born blind, but rather he should be born blind so that the glory of God can be shown through him. And I'm doing this 100% from memory, so don't cast stones if I didn't quote it exactly right. But Christ's answer doesn't contradict their question. He doesn't say, hey, what are you talking about? This isn't what I've taught you. He just simply answers neither. So something to think about there. And while we're on that subject, the reason why this Walter Russell quote has stuck with me for so long is 20 years ago, like sometime around the year 2002, I was on a business trip away from home, and I just had this random thought. What if there was a woman on a business trip who loved to play the piano? Okay, so she goes to her business meeting, and she finds out 2 towns over there's this really nice restaurant that she wants to go to. So she's at that restaurant, and something happens, and she bangs her head. She wakes up in the hospital the next day. She doesn't remember who she is, and nobody knows who she is. And so, hypothetically speaking, she goes on and lives her life not knowing who she was. She just had this moment when she woke up in the hospital. Kind of sounds like being born, right? So maybe one day I would think that she's walking through a mall and sees a place that sells pianos. Now remember, before she got hit in the head, she loved to play the piano. She sees the piano, and let's say she can't remember how to play the piano, but she's fascinated with it, and she takes lessons. She catches on quickly. Anyway, my point is, soon she becomes the same person that she was, spiritually speaking, and in her soul. But yeah, so there's a lot to think about there. I thought about that, like I said, a little over 20 years ago. So Walter Russell talks about how a piano isn't the musician. The piano is just an instrument. And so I think that's a neat analogy. And I guess that's why that stuck with me. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that, and I hope I didn't ramble on too long. And just as kind of a bonus material, while I'm talking, this reminded me probably 30 years ago. I actually talked to somebody who did not believe in God, did not believe in creation, and just everything was just, what you see is what you get. And they believed when you die, that was it, you're done. And so my question back to them was, but if you believe that everything came from nothing, and you once did not exist, and now you do, it was from the nothing that created you, because now you exist from the nothing, and then when you die, you return back to the nothing, which was the very thing that caused you to come to life, create you in the first place. So it's kind of an endless cycle where atheists kind of trap themselves, because you come from nothing, you die, you return to the nothing, the very thing that first gave you life anyway, if that's your belief. So there's some contradictions there as far as being an atheist. But anyway, it's all interesting to think about. Pardon my rambling for so long, but Walter Russell has many quotes out there. They're great. I love analyzing them and thinking about them. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.